everyone, and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I wanted to show you guys how you can create your own budget planner using a notebook. I wanted to do this video because I wanted to show you guys that you don't need to go out and buy a budget planner. You can totally use what you have. If you have a notebook laying around, some loose paper from back in the day, maybe from college or something, or high school. I don't know if you guys still use these kind of loose leaf papers, but the notebook that I'm going to be using today is just 70 sheets. So I can't really imagine you really using maybe 12 months or putting 12 months into here, but this is what I had. You can totally buy or maybe get the ones that have like the 5 subject ones maybe. Before we dive in, I want to show you all the different sections that we are going to build out. I did put post-it notes on here to remind myself. So here on the back side, I did make a note that I want to turn this into a accounts list. A lot of times when we are budgeting, or I know for sure when I was starting out, what I would get frustrated with is all the different usernames I had and passwords that I had to know. And especially those passwords that have like, they make you put like a capital letter, a special letter, or a special symbol or something like that. So I think this would be a good list or a good area for you to put down the accounts that you have, your username and passwords. And then in this section here, we're going to be building out a budget overview with all of the dates on there. We're going to have a debt overview, savings buckets and goal amounts on there, financial goals on 2 pages, and then a notes section here, and then a monthly calendar. And the budget's going to start here. We're going to go ahead and just get started with the front 2 sections here. So for right now, I'm going to go ahead and skip this section for myself. I really just wanted to show you guys how you can use this backside. You can totally use it for something else, but really quick as a tip for when you're trying to remember your username and passwords, the ones that have like the special character, like a capital letter, let's say for example, your username, I'm just going to put purposeful, that's your username. And then your password, it's let's say budget and a asterisk. What I will write inside of the planner, I won't write the whole password, just kind of like a reminder for myself is I'll just put the first 2 letters and the asterisk. So my little reminder would be BU and asterisk. I just, for some reason, I don't feel comfortable writing out the whole thing. Even though this budget planner is not going to go anywhere, it's just going to stay home. I'll do that. And I'll know what it is because most of my passwords, a lot of times they'll stay the same. So that's kind of like my little tip. And even for the username, I won't put the whole thing, but I'll just put enough so that I know what it is. Just a tip there in case you're kind of paranoid like me and you don't want to write out the whole entire thing. Let's go ahead and just start with the budget overview over here. So the idea for this page is that you have kind of like a cheat sheet. So as you're budgeting, you're going to have all of your monthly fixed bills, variable expenses, all here ready for you to take a look at, especially the seasonal fixed items or fixed bills and seasonal spending that we do. So let me go ahead and show you guys that. So let's zoom in here. I'm not going to get too fancy or anything with my writing. I just have a ballpoint pen here because that's my favorite type of pen to use, especially for these thinner kind of pages. I don't like to use the inky ones because it'll bleed through and it kind of bugs me when I see it on the next page. But yeah, that's just my personal preference. So I'm just going to go ahead and just title this budget overview. Make it as fancy or not so fancy as you like. I'm just gonna title it very simply. So budget overview. And then after that, I'm gonna have a section over here for monthly. So these are all like the regular fixed bills that happen every single month. So we're gonna have monthly bills on here. So bills and everything will be in date order. Okay, so I'm pretty much done writing out the budget overview page. So I'm going to go over it with you guys. So with the monthly bills, you want to make sure you have the due date and put it in due date order. I forgot the Audible on here, so I wrote it down here at the bottom because it was something new that we have. So I made an arrow on here as well just to make sure that I remember. And then I do have a column, of course, for the amount. And anything here that says A is all on auto pay. I also have a notes section on here as well because for our utilities, this has been our average. It could change. And then what we have also on our credit cards, my husband has the internet on his card. And then I have Disney Plus on one of my cards as well. And then I also have my laundry app on my Capital as well. Well, that's what I use to pay for it. And then once you have that all in order, you should have a total. So you have an idea of how much every single month is going towards your fixed expenses. So for us, it's $2,762. And then moving on to this section here, I think it's super important. It's the seasonal fixed yearly expenses that we have that we tend to forget. So what we have on here is our AAA membership, our Scion registration renewal, tax prep fees, Sam's Club, Caliber registration, and Amazon Prime. I did make sure to make a note for these two cars that it was our smog year this year. So we won't have smog next year because in California it's every other year. So we'll have one again in 2023, just so I know to kind of budget for that as well. I think we spent about $38, $40. It might increase later on. So who knows? But I just want to make a note of that on here so I know how much to save in our maintenance fund. And then moving down here, I also want to have a list of our variable spending that we do, both the regular monthly and then seasonal variable spending as well. So these are all of our typical variable spending that we do paycheck to paycheck, like the daily, day-to-day kind of spending. And the newest category on here is health and wellness. We find that this has been something that we've been spending on that I don't want to put towards our household category anymore. So we've incorporated that into our budget. Miscellaneous, we haven't been using. So it's kind of been more of a cushion for us. And I did go ahead and put the typical amounts that we budget monthly. And by monthly, I mean 2 paycheck budgets because we get paid bi-weekly. Let's say for food, it's $500. So for one paycheck, it'll be $250. The other paycheck, it's another $250. And then you'll have a total down here. So you kind of have an idea of how much you really budget for your variable spending for the month. And if you have no idea what variable spending categories you use or you spend, make sure to track your spending because that'll give you a better idea of what typical spending you usually do. So start there, track your spending. This is how I figured out all of our categories. And then for the seasonal variable expenses, these are the ones that tend to come up, and that's Christmas, school, travel, and tech. So this is how the budget overview looks like. Just think of this as kind of like your cheat sheet. So as you're budgeting, you can go back here to reference all of the dates and all of the different categories and stuff that you have for your budget. Hopefully this is helpful because it for sure helped me when I was budgeting back in the day. Okay, so moving on to the next page, which is going to be our debt overview. I'm going to go ahead and just write down all of the debts that we used to have before, just so you can see how the page looks like. This was my very first debt tracker. It was one of the note pages that I had in my Happy Planner. And that's what I started out with. So I'm going to go ahead and write all of these out, and I'll show you what the different things that you should have when you are writing down or listing all of your debt. Okay, so with the debt overview, of course you want to have a column for all of the different debt accounts that you have, balance that you currently have. So when you are starting to build this budget planner, just write the balance amount that you currently have right now. And I like to put the date. So I put balance as of June 15, 2018. That was when we started this debt tracker right here. And then the interest on here, pay attention to the changes in this because sometimes it will change depending on how long you've been paying off your debt. And then minimum payment amounts also. These will also change as you pay down your debt, so pay attention to that. Our total debt back then was $46,029, and our monthly amount that we were paying was $1,913.40. And I have to tell you, even before this, we were paying a little over $2,000, and this just blew my mind. So if your goal is to pay down debt, write it all down, figure it all out, how much you're paying monthly, and sure enough, the amount that you might be paying would probably piss you off enough to get started on paying off that debt, because that's totally what happened with us. So that is pretty much it for the debt overview. We're gonna go ahead and move on to the savings buckets, sinking funds. This is gonna be just your goals and the savings categories that you want to be saving up for. It's not gonna be a tracker. So I'm gonna go ahead and list out our savings goals that we have as a family. I did just post a video of how we have our digital savings bucket set up through Capital One 360. So if you want to see that video, I'm going to go ahead and link it here if you guys want to see that. But I'm going to go ahead and just write down all of the savings categories that we have going on and the goal amount for each one. Okay, so these are all our different savings buckets. I have our categories listed on here, our goal amount, when it's due, and the monthly contribution that we are making in order to achieve these goal amounts. I'm not sure if you have a lot of savings goals or categories like I do. Like I mentioned in that Capital One 360 video, if you are just starting to save, I really hope you start with your emergency fund. So start there, and then your seasonal expenses that you have, like the annual bills that you will have in the future. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one, which is the financial goals. So I have it on 2 pages because what I want to do with the goals is I want you to list out your goals, and I want you to also list out the action steps that you need to take in order to achieve those goals. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite all of mine and kind of explain to you or show you my thought process, I guess, with that. Okay, so these are our financial goals for 2021. I just copied a list off of the one that I have on my wall that I created earlier this year. So I did make sure to put my purpose for these goals is to ensure financial security for my family while enjoying life and family adventures. I find that when you have a why or a purpose attached to your goals, you are more than likely to stick with them, as well as putting action steps in them. So don't just say, for example, be debt-free by July 2021. What does that look like? What do you need to do in order to achieve that goal? So for example, this one was our number 1 goal this year, was to be debt-free, because looking ahead in our budget, I knew for sure that we would be able to be debt-free this year. So the action steps that I wrote down for us was to always be aware of the balance and to make sure to check monthly, to budget prep ahead of time and try to be as prepared as I can to kind of gauge the amount left over that we would have at the end of each paycheck, and to see not necessarily what we would cut, but just to know, like when my husband was getting paid overtime, to make sure that we prioritize those extra funds into going into the paying off our debt, or making sure to hold off on certain big expenses that we for sure don't need. I have been going back and forth between wanting to get a tablet, the Samsung Galaxy, I think it's S7 or S6, and instead of doing that, we put a good chunk into our debt. Make extra debt payment a priority, pay first during payday, which we usually would do, and then use payoff tracker to track our progress. That's pretty much what I mean with action steps. When you guys are creating your goal or saying that you want to achieve this, make sure you also think about the action steps, the habits that you need to put in place in order to achieve that goal. So that is pretty much our financial goals for 2021. We are now going to be setting up the monthly calendar overview for all your bills and any events or anything that's going to be coming up, as well as the paycheck budget. Okay, so this is how the monthly turned out. The boxes here are an inch height, and then the width, I just did 4 lines or 4 spaces. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I didn't really measure those out, and it turned out okay. So depending on how wide you want it, you can change it up if you want. I did want to make sure I make room for an area to write down our goals. So I made sure to make space for that. And I do prefer my calendar to start on a Monday, so that's why it's starting on a Monday. And then as far as the highlighting goes, so with the different paycheck budget, so anything highlighted in blue, so here, expenses that go under there are pretty much just these 2 for this one, but for the middle one, so payday on the 16th, these are the expenses that will go under that paycheck. But for the one in May, when we get paid on April 30th, that's going to be part of our May budget. I did put, so for internet and Disney Plus, since those are on a credit card, those will be deducted on the credit card on these dates, and then it'll be paid for with this paycheck. So I learned this method, the highlighting method, what paycheck will pay for certain bills. I learned that through the Budget Mom, and I think it's super helpful. So I wasn't sure if I was going to put a monthly layout in this DIY budget planner, but I think it's super important. I do have a wall calendar where I can see all of this, and it's also on my phone, but I wanted to include it because I think looking at the monthly overview like this and setting it up, it just makes it easy to see what bills you have coming up and in what order, and as well as other events might be coming up as well. So moving on to the next part, which is the setting up the biweekly paycheck budget. This is going to be the last one that I'm going to be setting up. So let me go ahead and just do that. So this is how the first biweekly paycheck budget looks like. So what I have here is the income, fixed bills, variable spending, all of our savings, and then a totals amount for each one of these right here. And then I'm going to have an area where I can put the leftover amount, or the amount that's going to be the starting balance for the next paycheck budget, which will be April 16th paycheck budget. So that's going to go on this side. So I went ahead and just added the expense trackers on here because I didn't want to just leave it blank, and I wanted to show you how I have it set up. So for the expense trackers, I'm going to have 2 pages. That's for the first paycheck budget, and this one's for the budget period April 2nd to the 15th. We get paid on the 2nd, and the next paycheck we get is on the 16th. So this is a 14-day expense tracker. And then I have the date here, description, category, the amount plus or minus, and then the balance. And this is for our checking account. I also have an area where you can write the starting balance. Also, I'm not sure if you can tell, but I totally forgot to add in category. Otherwise, these 2 right here won't be this wide. I wanted to originally have a longer space for description because sometimes when I'm writing out our purchases or writing it down, I like to write sometimes what I'm buying. Instead of it just saying Target or like Amazon, I like to actually put what's being purchased. This is how I have it set up on 2 pages. And then for the next paycheck budget, it'll be on 2 pages as well. And then again, with the cash, I just need one page. It might be different for you. You might be a cash spender. So, or I don't know, however it makes sense for you to set up the expense tracker. And I have one area up here for first paycheck budget, and then the bottom right here will be for the second one. And then I did reserve a page to do a budget review, which is just taking all of your budget categories, plugging it all in here, and writing the total amount with the 2 paycheck budget. So you'll get your monthly budget overview or recap. And then you will start again with the month calendar overview here, and then the 2 paycheck budget and expense trackers all over again. That is pretty much it. I know this video is probably super long. Thank you for sticking it out to the end, and hopefully this was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. Thank you guys so much as always for watching, and I will talk to you in the next video. Have a good one, guys.